Hey, how's that half inch treating you, Danny?
Who doesn't love a good half inch?
Of rain today. That's a call back from yesterday. It's rainy today, man. It is rainy today.
Craptacular outside.
Love it, though.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's good for the plants.
Yeah, it keeps it green.
Keeps it green.
Keep telling yourself
I hate
that. I love it, though.
I hate that.
You got to lean into it.
It's so dumb.
No, it's perfect because.
Oh,
it is
really?
true.
It keeps it green? Urgh.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
Well, go live in a desert.
Yeah, and watch that half inch turn into a flood.
Exactly.
It's terrifying.
Exactly. I think it's fine. That's what we sign up for. In Oregon.
It is, and the extremes here are not really that bad.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Jordan Schultz in the building again today. Hi, Jordan.
Happy hump day, guys.
Hello.
I am soaking wet walking into the building today. So, yay.
Again, keeps it green. Keeps it green. That's what we got to tell ourselves.
Terrible.
I'll never forget when I was a kid. This was 20 years ago when Vince Carter was a free agent in the NBA. And as a very young Blazers fan, I actually, very, very stupidly thought that Portland had a shot at the man.
No, we don't.
No, they never did. He could come out of retirement and they still wouldn't have a chance at signing him. But I emailed Mike Rice asking why he wouldn't come to Portland, and this to this day eats at my craw.
Emailed Mike Rice.
Oh yeah,
that is. You know what? You're gambling when you're emailing the wild one, Mike Rice.
Well, because back in the day it was, hey, email the broadcasters, ask them a question about the team. So 13-year-old Jordan says, hey, why don't the Blazers have a shot at Vince? And he said, look out your window, thanks, Mike. Talking about the rain. And I'm just like, I don't buy that. I still don't buy that. God, rain's awesome, but it's not the worst part about being here.
I think look out your window could go for a lot of things now. It's like you could also just look out your window and all you see is just white people everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very the rain and the weather, because when they come to Portland, think of the times that NBA players come to Portland.
Yeah, on the road in January.
The winter,
yeah,
where you fly in the middle of the afternoon and it's dark.
It's craptacular.
You leave in the middle of the night, it's dark. It's just rainy. It doesn't help the situation. And then you look around like, what in the world? Is there any diversity in this city at all?
Because no.
All you are is you're downtown at the Nines, and then you go over to the Moda Center, and it's a short drive, thankfully.
Well, they're actually they don't stay at most of them don't stay at the Nines anymore.
Oh, really? They moved?
A couple teams have, but the new hotel,
the Ritz-Carlton, even closer.
Yeah,
so you see even less of the city, and you're just in and out very quickly, and it's like, okay, it is when you travel or if you go and you live somewhere else in this country, or if you go and you travel, you realize how
white
lily white
this
city is.
It's like 80%, which is one of the highest for major cities.
It is.
It's staggering.
And so,
well, you mentioned it yesterday. Was it Oregon like a white haven state?
Yeah, it was founded as a white haven.
Oh God.
Now that is misleading. It was not founded as a white haven. It was. A lot of people just started coming up here and they were like, hey, we're going to go down White City, Oregon.
It was allegedly the White Haven. Okay.
Yeah. It turned into one real quick.
Yeah.
It was not founded as one, but it turned into one real fast. But we've changed,
Yeah, we're just not as white.
Except for the rain. That's still
there.
Still all over the place.
Still here. All right. Well, we got a Wednesday. We're airing and ready to go. This is our last show in the building because we are hitting the road next 2 days. Fan Madness twice is nice. We are going to be at X Golf Tualatin tomorrow, X Golf Vancouver on Friday from noon till 7 for Fan Madness Part 2. Coming at you. A was so awesome that George McCoy at Warren Allen Attorneys at Law, along with Coors Light, present Fan Madness. X Golf, Tualatin tomorrow, Vancouver on Friday. That's a real sticking point here. You don't want to show up at X Golf Vancouver tomorrow expecting the Fan because we won't be there.
We'll be there.
You could still
Friday.
golf.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll be there on Friday. We're going to be at X Golf Tualatin tomorrow.
We encourage you, in fact, to go there.
And it's even better because it's not just Fan Madness. We get opening day tomorrow. Opening day in baseball tomorrow. The one day that Jordan Schultz can be happy as a Mariners fan, tomorrow.
Don't worry, we're actually going to ruin that today.
But tomorrow, he gets to be happy.
What's that old...
Hope springs eternal.
What's that old Family Guy joke? The season has started and the first pitch and it's over.
And it's over.
The Mets, by the way, have already canceled tomorrow's opening day game due to rain, so they got to push that back to Friday. So the Mets already metting for 2024.
And look, there's only 2 teams in baseball right now that cannot finish 162-0. The Dodgers and the Padres. They split that series in Korea, so they are out on this 162-0. Everybody else in play. It's in play.
It's true.
History could be made.
Hey, I just need 54%.
No,
it's got to be better than that.
Oh, I hate it.
That's the Alfaro Camino at the 4 of baseball. That is.
And that will, Jerry DiPoto, that's going to follow him.
Yep.
Like a sad puppy for the rest of his career.
I was going to say something stinkier, but sure.
Thank you for the Alfaro Aminu comparison. That is the best comparison to Mariners baseball that I think I've ever heard.
But tomorrow, the games don't start until 4. You can get on the simulators early, play around, watch opening day of baseball. Post up, have some pops, hang out with us, have some Coors Lights, hang out. We got Isaac and Suk starting up at 3, and then we'll carry you all the way through 7 o'clock. Nothing's better than watching tournament in a place where you're with like-minded people. X Golf has got TVs all over. It's a sports bar, baby. You get to live and die with the shots that fall and the shots that don't, and we're going to be there for you. Fan Madness, presented by George McCoy at Warren Allen Attorneys at Law. Injuries and missing work ruining your day? Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com. He'll make them pay. And it's also brought to you by Coors Light. Let's go.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about trying to find a TV like you did at the Ghost.
No, you don't. No, you don't have to go to the Screw and Brew. Nope. You just got to go and drop some bombs on the simi. Let's go.
Take some swings.
That's right.
Champagne of beers.
Yeah.
The Miller High Life, which is also owned by Coors.
Maybe on a Sunday night you can catch a pay-per-view fight, of which my wife does not understand what pay-per-view was.
What?
Yeah. So I'm sitting there last night after finishing up a Zoom call, and she comes in and says, "Can I tell you something?" And my natural reaction was, "Oh God, what is broken? What do I have to pay for? What do I have to fix?" And it wasn't that. It might have been worse in a sense. She goes, "I just found out that pay-per-view was pay per view and not pay-per-view, as in like a piece of pay-per-view." Like, she goes, "I thought pay-per-view was the name of the company." And I don't know what spurned this, but she had this look of both shame and disgust on her face. And
so she was going with, like, everybody assumes, like, Kleenex is facial tissue.
Sure.
Like, that is what she went opposite of what everybody kind of assumed. She was going pay-per-view is a company called Pay-Per-View. Looking at paper. Is what you ordered things on your television.
Yep.
How old is she?
I can't say that out loud.
That's a tough one, man.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to go through when you're not able to figure out, wait, how old is she?
She's younger
She's
than
under
me.
40.
Younger than me.
Okay, so under 40. You're good. You're good. Okay, but when you said I can't say that out loud, I was like, damn, Danny, how old did
I'm not going to say that out loud.
Is she over 18?
Yeah, we're
okay.
good.
Over 18 and under 40, you're good. All right.
We're in the window.
Okay.
I should caveat this. We should caveat this with, my wife led a very sheltered life as a child.
Yeah.
She watched TV, but it was like watching an hour of OPB.
That's a form of pay-per-view, too, because they beg you every year for your donations to keep public broadcasting alive.
It's fair.
I don't think it's ever,
brought to you by viewers like you.
Yeah, and I think it's a scam. I think they've never been. They always talk about, oh, we don't have enough money. I think they always do.
The government is giving them money, so and even if you didn't donate, the government would still give them money.
It's like it's like your little league team, right? Your little league team is you're paying your money to play in the Little League, right?
Sure.
You're just you want some nicer things, you got to do the fundraisers for it.
Yeah, you gotta go
You gotta sell those chocolate bars. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. They give you like the reusable bag and
I haven't had the
like
chocolate
a
bar.
hemp necklace or something. I don't know what they give these days, but a mug.
Probably some crystals.
Yeah,
Would
that's
imagine.
right. You get some of those and they send them back. It's just that instead of selling chocolate bars, they're selling your reusable bag and crystals and hemp necklace.
The magazine sales scam, is that still going on?
Hey, listen. We do not downplay the magazine sales. Those were
More than half of the people that I signed up for never got their magazines. I mean, 20 years later, I still remember this. Like all the chocolate that I ended up selling, like from door to door, people got their chocolate bars. But
do you guys see kids selling stuff anymore?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
My neighborhood,
you know?
which is insane because I live next to like 4 schools, I never.
That should be against the law.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm literally right around the corner from an elementary school,
Yeah.
and no sales whatsoever.
I've
Although
been-
I have a no soliciting sign on my door.
I have an elementary. and-
That's probably a
what it is.
barrier.
I've got.
fair.
I've got people knocking on my door regularly to sell me solar panels, but I haven't had anybody for do a
Yeah.
fundraiser since I've lived there.
Yeah, like youth sports now, they'll do like they call them gold cards.
Oh yeah.
You know,
we
where
had them in Beaverton.
they sell all like it's discounts everywhere. You'll get door to doors on
Yeah.
those.
Haven't seen one of those in Newburgh.
You get the fundraisers now are for like kids' schools. It's way more digital, and you can just like text people that like, hey, we're doing this fundraiser, blah 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 blah. So there is less of like I remember having to sell like wrapping paper around the holidays.
Yeah.
that was a weird one.
Wreaths.
Yeah.
Oh,
Boy
the
Scouts.
wreaths.
Boy
Boy Scouts
Scouts
would
would
do
do
the
the wreaths.
Yeah.
Yep. And
We did the wreaths and choir.
outside of that, like those still happen, but you don't have the kid lugging around the chocolate bars
No.
anymore because what they'll do is you'll just like get a text, "Hey, I'm selling chocolate bars," and then they just show up.
See, that's
in the
why kids
mail
are weak now
because they don't
because
have
they
to,
don't have to go out there and
and-
lug door to door and build those skills.
Yeah, but every kid should knock on
A,
Buffalo
B,
Bill's
Yeah,
door.
ABC baby, always be closing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Come
Jeff
on now.
Rust, his daughter just doing the recent Girl Scout cookie sales. He brought them in for everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody has to worry about that anymore. I don't need to wait for somebody to come to my door. So I'd rather put the no soliciting sign up and support my coworkers' kids instead of some rando down the street.
I still can't believe your wife. It took her this long to realize, like she'd never seen the words pay-per-view before, ever.
I don't think so. Which is interesting because my wife likes MMA. Like if I throw on a UFC fight, she's in. But I don't think she ever was like cognizantly looking at the guide.
She doesn't realize that you just plopped down $100 for that fight.
Uh-huh.
So that's a hack for you.
The pay-per-view.
She has no idea. She's like, hey, that fight came up on the TV
Uh-huh.
again.
Yeah.
That's deadly.
Yeah, right?
Yikes.
Now she knows.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of. I'm not going to crush her for this because we go through so many different. Like, again, it's like
she did
Kleenex
not have exposure to it
and-
really either.
Well, Kleenex and Q-tips.
Yeah.
It's just like name brand. She just thought it was a name
What
brand.
what
that
is
you
a
go by.
Q-tip actually called? Is it ear cleaner?
It is a cotton swab.
Cotton swab, that's right.
It is a
yeah.
cotton swab.
Ear cleaner. I don't know what the hell I.
Yeah, which they say you're not supposed to use. You're not supposed to use those anymore.
No, don't stick them right in your ear.
I
Well, how do you
dangerous.
use it then?
Stick it up your nose. I
Look,
don't know.
Well, it's not
this
like
is
dangerous.
this is the part of the show where if you're eating, I'm sorry, I don't use the Q-tips anymore. You can go to the store and get like these plastic things. They're like a little melon baller, so you can actually like clean your ears out without pushing stuff in.
That is
I
disgusting.
don't have that much wax in my
No.
ears.
Well, no, I mean, but you're not scooping it out like ice cream. I'm just saying, like,
That's
it-
literally the way you described
well,
it,
no,
Danny, was that you
it
melon
works.
ball it out. Sorry,
Well, it
sorry,
works.
It's not
It's like a
ice
little-
cream. Melon ball it.
it's like a little spoon, like that you can use to like scrape your ears,
Yeah.
as opposed to like shoving stuff in. That was the whole point.
I don't think either is good, but okay. I mean, there's
yeah. Aren't you inherently shoving something a little
Yeah.
bit further with that though?
The way it's shaped, it's not. It's like a quarter spoon kind of a deal.
Oh, you
Okay.
just gotta go water pick. This is gross.
Water pick.
Well, yeah, that's just the simplest and the most like I'd say the most clean way
Huh?
to do it.
What? feel like if you use the water pick,
Water pick, you just
Yeah,
I
you
feel,
have to
but
stick
then you
anything in
get
there.
water in your ear.
oh god, you're
That's
deep in there.
You're just bouncing on
Yeah.
one leg, just trying to get that water out.
Yeah, that's a hard pass for me.
I've always wanted to ask the doctor, like when I go in for a checkup, like, can you clean my ears out? Because like they do it with like the water pick, and they'll get it, and you see those videos online, which I don't know why I watch them.
You get sucked in.
Into what?
Like I'm like like cleaning out water or ears.
Oh god, yeah.
Stuff like
Oh yeah.
it is disgusting.
Oh yeah. No, when you see like somebody who's got it bad.
God.
Oh yeah. No, I am. That look the bad toenail.
No, I'm not. Again, Danny with the feet.
The relief. Hell, fingernail. Like you can see like when it's ingrown, they get the relief. It's like, oh god, that has.
Do you guys like watch those gross pimple popping videos too?
Oh, yeah.
I cannot do
Do
that.
they have a whole show? Like that's a popular show on
Yeah.
TLC.
No, I know, but you can watch like
Crazy.
60-second rolls of them, and I every time I see
Nope.
those, I'm like, nope,
No, I'm out on that.
quick.
I'm out on that.
It depends on
But,
which one it is, but yeah, there's always ones that
like
are
the
interesting.
ear videos. I'll sit there and I'm like, how did you have a moth in your ear?
Yeah.
Like how
Or how did the wax buildup get to be that
yeah.
insane?
Yeah, but I've just always like I don't feel like I have like excessive buildup in my ears, but I've always wondered if I had that happen, what would it look like?
Mhm.
You know, because you see these videos and you're like, oh my god,
Probably just like that. Probably brown and gross.
gross. Well, happy lunchtime,
My
everybody.
parents told me they took a pistachio nut out of my ear once as a little kid.
That sounds about right.
Right?
That sounds, it sounds right.
I think I was like 4 years old.
Danny, I hope you mean I mean this with all the love and respect in the world. You seem to me like a kid that shoved a lot of things up ears.
Not just
nose.
in my ears.
Like you
or
just
nose.
shoved things.
I put a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on a VCR.
that
Yeah.
makes sense. You were like
So in chaos.
it fits.
Yes.
You know, you're like,
100%.
That
100%.
seems like little Danny.
Yeah.
Running around just
Problem solving.
a fork in an outlet. Just
And that did happen.
yeah. See.
It's a butter knife.
See? Yeah, yeah. It terrified me. My son did that. We were downstairs. He was upstairs.
Lights
I
flickered.
don't know what he shoved in that socket, but we heard a pop, and he goes, we heard like this. And I was like, uh-oh. And so I go running up the stairs, and I'm like, what happened? And he is just like in his bed, like he'd scurried around the corner. He's in his bedroom, and I'm like, buddy, what was I? I go, are you okay? And he's just rattled. Like he is shook to his
Yeah.
core. He's like,
Electricity coursing through your body for the
was
very
like-
first time will do
I
that.
was like, what's going on? Like, what happened? He's like, nothing. I'm like, something happened. I heard a loud pop and you squealed. And he was like, nothing. And then I walk by
black mark
in the
on the-
hall in the hallway. The outlet has got like these little char marks on it. I was like,
The evidence.
I was like, bud, did you put something in there? No. Buddy. Yeah. I'm like, where is it? He's like, I don't know. And to this day, I still don't know what he put in that outlet,
Mm.
but he got rid of the evidence and he is taking that to his grave. And I was like, we never put anything in the outlets for the 100th time.
Mhm.
Do not put anything in. And he has not since. He has not since. It's going to be real surprising to him, like when he is, in his late 20s, 30s, maybe 18. And he's like, I can't believe it, can't have kids. And it's like, well, bud, let me tell you about the time you shoved something in the light socket. That's probably why you're sterile, bud.
Zapped yourself.
Well,
Yeah, you got.
in that
you
case,
got,
I'm
you got that
screwed.
bargain barrel vasectomy, bud.
I got the 220 instead of the 110. We were wiring up at my parents' shop, and one of them arced off the 220, and it jumped out of my eyebrow.
It jumped out of your eyebrow.
I grabbed the rail that it was hot on, and it jumped out of my eyebrow back into the rail.
Did you have? Was your eyebrow pierced?
Yes.
It's almost like lightning hitting you. That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you're alive, but you deserve that.
Yeah, 220. buddy.
With your eyebrow pierced.
I was done.
Yeah.
So if
you're
you're
lucky to be alive, dude.
So, yes.
To be quite honest,
yes.
you were very lucky.
It could have gone
be
through my
alive.
brain and killed me. 100%.
Yeah.
So I have two things that I don't do anymore. I don't do electrical work and I don't do plumbing. And I don't do plumbing because I helped my parents dig up an old septic tank. And previously, the house was owned and inhabited by 4 women. And
okay, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good with your story.
Yeah.
Yep. I know how that ends.
The gray water.
No, I don't want. Okay. Again, we're good.
Back of the
Danny,
head.
we're good.
Back of the head.
We're good.
This segment has gotten way too long.
Yeah, you are. We're good.
Yeah. So I don't do plumbing
good.
or I don't do electrical work because of 2 horrifying experiences. One almost killed me and one almost involved me killing my father.
I feel like that's for the best.
Right?
That's for the best. All right. Well, I don't know how we rebound from that, but we shall press on.
There we go.
We have a lot that we got to get to. Opening day is tomorrow. We'll have a little bit of baseball stuff in today's show. We have some big news out of the world of college sports, and a little bit of NFL in college football to get to as well. But there was a big story today that, do you pass it up? What is more important, the future of your game or your own pocketbook? Next on The Fan. It is Wrestling Wednesday. Jordan Schultz has loaded up all of the wrestling music for today. Thank you, doing the Lord's work. All right, I saw this story come across the line this morning, and at first I rolled my eyes, and then I started digging into this, and I said, oh, does she consider it? TMZ had this morning a story pop up that Caitlin Clark has a $5 million offer from the Big Three League to play 3-on-3 basketball. And I remember Ice Cube's league. And Ice Cube said, we intended to offer to remain private while Caitlin Clark plays for the championship, but I won't deny what's now already out there. Big Three made a historic offer to Caitlin Clark. Why wouldn't we? Caitlin is a generational athlete who can achieve tremendous success in the Big Three. And on the surface, I just rolled my eyes and I was like, come on. Like, all right, you want us to care about the Big Three, which I forgot was still around. Hand up. Did not realize it was still around.
They come here even.
They did they this past summer?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Hey, all right.
There you go.
But a $5 million offer to play in the Big Three, I just went, okay, why would she play in the Big Three where you got a bunch of washed up athletes, the NBA players, and guys who never made it to the NBA, when you could play the highest level of your own sport?
Because she'd make 2,000% more money.
The $5 million offer, that's where I started digging in. The Supermax in the WNBA is $241,000 a year. The salary cap in the WNBA is $1.4 million for a team. $1.4 million. You think of the women's professional basketball players that are more household names. Breanna Stewart, Stewie, the most dominant player in the, I think she averaged like 30 points a game. She makes $205,000 a year playing in the WNBA.
Yeah.
Asia Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Sabrina Ionescu, $200,000 a year playing in the WNBA. $5 million is, exponentially more money.
More than she'd probably make in her career in the WNBA.
But the question is it worth not playing in the WNBA? Because the Big Three, that cycles over the summer during the WNBA season. You can't do both.
No.
Is it a detriment to the growth of the WNBA if she were to accept that offer because the biggest name in women's basketball would not be playing the sport? So do you put your own financial gain, because she would still get endorsements, she would still make a lot of, and $5 million is a lot of cash to play in the Big Three. Do you put your own financial gain over the growth of the WNBA, which, again, she'll make like $200,000 in base salary in the WNBA, but her endorsements will still be through the roof?
I think it actually, if she went to the Big Three, it would help the growth of the WNBA.
You think it would?
And this is why. I think there would be actual pressure on the WNBA to actually raise the salary cap.
Yeah, because if people are bolting for
other avenues, they got to go, oh, we need to figure something out here. Now, there's this constant battle between I hate the whole battle of the sexist thing and should women be paid more, blah, blah, blah. You should be paid what you can generate.
Yeah, pay what you're worth.
That's where I'm at. Like in the women's versus men's department, perfect example, the national women's soccer team is significantly more successful than the men's by orders of magnitude that we cannot put into words.
In marketing and in actual performance on the field.
Success. They should be paid more than the men. Unequivocally. I don't think that should even come close. But they aren't, which doesn't make any sense to me.
I think we're equal now.
We're equal, but I genuinely believe they should be paid more. They're more successful.
Yeah.
It's I don't know what we're doing here. The WNBA is still a brand that does need to be subsidized. And even though the game is growing, it is not growing to the exponential amount that is discussed. The women's game is growing, and that is a good thing. There should be more outlets and avenues for women in the sports studio space, the sports marketing space, whether or not that's endorsement money for Caitlin Clark or for Angel Reese or for Cameron Brink, any of those NIL stars that are going to go to the WNBA, but also more opportunities for them on TV. The flip side of this is, when does the WNBA play?
In the summer.
When are ratings down for sports the most?
In the summer.
Okay. And they're never going to compete with the NBA.
Which is why they play in the summers, because inventory is needed.
Yes. And that is the issue. And it hasn't been so much of an inventory problem for like lack of access to it, because they are being broadcast on local and national media. How can they get the eyeballs from women's college basketball to the WNBA?
Yeah.
And if Caitlin Clark spurning the WNBA, going to the Big Three, can be something that goes, okay, we need to find a way to generate more eyeballs, to generate more buzz, to be behind things more, because it's very clear that our transcendent stars can drive eyeballs.
Yep.
I think it's a better move for both her and the game if she can do that.
Now, Ice Cube is saying, according to reports, that they would be able to play her WNBA schedule, but will the WNBA allow it? I mean, it's 10 games out of the year in this 3-on-3 league. It is still during the WNBA season.
And also you have to worry about insurance and her getting hurt and investing.
But here's one of the problems this is why, one of the reasons why Brittany Griner ended up in the Russian gulag is
because the money is huge in Russia.
She had to go, and most WNBA players have to go over to Europe in order to make ends meet and to make sure that they are getting their worth and their value. Will the WNBA be like, yeah, you can play concurrently a Big Three schedule alongside ours, and even if it conflicts with her WNBA schedule, and the Big Three's like, no, you don't have to play in those I guess tournaments that they have games.
Yeah.
Then you go out and you can play. Will the WNBA be okay with that? Because look, why would they want to have her risk injury in their season when she's going to be their cash cow moving forward? And that is the interesting part for me in looking at all this is, can this be a way where both things can run side by side? Because as you said, it would be good for the WNBA to have her playing.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander, in the sense of more eyes. And I've seen this discussion head towards the they need to not put all their eggs in the Caitlin Clark basket, and I do agree with that, because if they go down the same path of the NBA, they're screwed. Because they need to develop ties to franchises, because the volatility of athletes, particularly in the female market, because it's not as a burgeoning market as there is on the men's side, you are setting yourself up for a massive recession if your stars fade away and you don't have that Michael Jordan-esque player to fall in line.
And that's going to be the thing that women's college basketball has to look to. Like, they have gone, and they've done a really good job of when they went from marketing Sabrina to finding, whether it was Angel Reese last year and Caitlin Clark, we started to see that surge. Is it going to be Juju Watkins that they're going to?
I would almost assuredly
that they're going to try to go. But here's the thing: is that people want to see greatness.
Yes.
And the reason why Caitlin Clark really took off this year was because she reset the record books and the
scoring record across college basketball.
And that is what people are going to want to gravitate towards. Yeah. And obviously the pizzazz that she plays with, the style and the ability to shoot from deep. Like, you can't just sit there and say, like, hey, we're going to find the next one down the line. That is going to be the next big challenge for women's college basketball. And then on the flip side of this, if she were to play in the Big Three, in the WNBA, and the Big Three do their handshake agreement, are like, yeah, we'll let this happen. What happens if? And this is the thing: Caitlin Clark often doesn't defend the best scorer on the other team.
No, she's female Steph Curry,
and
she is
that in a 3-on-3 scenario
can be a problem.
Former NBA players. It could be a big issue, and that could be to the detriment of the growth of the game. And that's why I just, at the end of the day, I look at it and I say, I bet she just says, I appreciate the offer, maybe plays a couple of one-offs, and then she sticks to the WNBA schedule.
It would be interesting to see her do it.
Fun.
Because we're not only just talking about her going to another league, we're talking about her playing with men.
Yeah.
And it becomes a new era battle of the sexes. Because I'm telling you right now, she's going to snatch some souls of some 40-year-old NBA players.
She can fill it up.
She can hang.
And quickly, to add to Danny's point, too, the viewership of the Big Three last summer, right around 480, 500,000 a game. The WNBA Finals, right around 480, 500,000 a game. So it's funny that you see leagues that are similar sizes, one with a lot of private equity cash coming in from maybe not everybody liking Kanye, but he injected a bunch of money in the league, the likes of those very rich dudes that can offer a very, very popular player $5 million. I do think that's going to force the NBA with, once again, very similar viewership to start coughing up the money. It's not going to come from NBA players. It's going to come from the owners or get Ice Cube to buy a WNBA team. I don't know. Maybe that route's the way to go.
Yep, this is going to be fascinating to see, but we're here at the point where we finally have that crossover women's basketball star translate to attracting the attention of, even if it is the Big Three, $5 million payday, man. $5 million payday.
She's not making that in her career.
That's tough.
I mean, let's extrapolate this.
Outside of endorsements.
As I'm saying,
endorsements, she's probably making $5 million this year in endorsements.
I think almost 10, actually, is
but
the number
again,
I saw.
I'm talking about salary from the WNBA. At the highest levels, at $250,000 a year, she'd have to play 20 years. Just think about that.
Diana Taurasi.
She makes that like that.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's an interesting thought exercise, though, and Ice Cube is ponying up the money. It'll be fascinating to see where Caitlin Clark goes, because if the WNBA and the Indiana Fever, I think they have the number 1 overall pick.
Yes,
they're
going to have Tyrese Halliburton and Caitlin Clark in Indiana. Fun time to be an Indiana basketball fan.
That's not bad at all.
No.
That's not bad at all.
They already painted a mural. There's a mural where Tyrese Halliburton is on a wall. They already painted Caitlin Clark next to him.
Badass.
It's pretty cool.
That team, that organization, they invest the number 1 pick. That is the one that's supposed to take them over the top. There could be a very real thing where they say, no, we don't. Not during our season or this close to our season, because in the European leagues, they do play truly in the off season, which is a ton of miles on their legs too. You wonder why we have so many injuries in like the WNBA. You see they're playing year round. They truly are playing year round. And you think of guys like Jokic, who doesn't touch a basketball for 3 months.
Yeah, because he's going to go deal with his horses.
It's quite the disparity, man. All right, 503-864-6326. That be the Vancouver Ford text line. Your dollar goes further at Vancouver Ford. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them online at vancouverford.com. All right, let's talk a little bit of NFL next on The Fan.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. First on The Fan, the Denver Broncos signing wideout Josh Reynolds to a 2-year contract worth up to $14 million. In the association, the Blazers back in action tonight, facing the Hawks in Atlanta. Atlanta is a 10.5-point favorite. Tip-off set for 4:30 p.m. on Root Sports. In baseball, the last major free agent finally has a home. Starting pitcher Jordan Montgomery has signed a 1-year, $25 million contract with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He pitched against them in the World Series last season. And the Los Angeles Dodgers spending even more cash, signing catcher Will Smith to a 10-year, $140 million contract extension. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Your favorite fan shows are on YouTube. Mash the subscribe button and like us for live streaming video and 1080 The Fan on demand.
Right out the gate, Schultze's on it, man. All right, we got a lot of smoke signals out of the draft. We will get to some of those because, whoa, Nelly.
Gotta love those owners' meetings.
Yeah. Gotta love Jim Harbaugh.
Let's get together and lie collectively.
It is great. But also, there is a report out there because there's one guy who's kind of holding the cards for a lot of movement in the NFL over the next handful of weeks and months, and that is Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. This report came out of the Pioneer Press in the Twin Cities there. There's an anticipated offer that Justin Jefferson will receive a deal that is worth 5 years, over $150 million, with $75 million guaranteed. We talked about this briefly with the Brandon Ayuk situation in the San Francisco 49ers, where John Lynch said, hey, we're not talking about trading Brandon Ayuk at this point. We're talking about contract negotiations. And the one thing that needs to be set is the pecking order of receivers moving forward in that reset of the market. And it actually behooves Brandon Ayuk and other receivers for Justin Jefferson to get his deal first.
Get that bag, baby.
And because at an average annual salary of $30 million a year in $75 million guaranteed.
Good money if you can find it.
That is that resets the market again for the wide receivers because you don't just have a one-off with Tyreek Hill in Miami, which has an average annual salary of $30 million. This is longer. And this is $75 million guaranteed cash. And once Justin Jefferson gets his, then you can go Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, and everybody else can kind of fall into place in that pecking order. But now we're sitting there and we're seeing the wide receiver market it essentially be the second most valuable position in the NFL when you look at the salaries.
I think it's pretty easy to see that in that vein. The interesting thing is that $75 million guaranteed amount. It both at the same time seems low and high. Because you're like 5 years, 75. Like, let me do the math and I'll carry the one. That's not very much on average.
That's $15 million a year
in guaranteed money. That's less than your top end number twos. We went through this the other day when somebody signed that I went, that seems like a lot for him. And then we started like going through the salary slots and like, well, actually, it's not. It's really
she's like 28.
Yeah, it's like, that's about right. But $15 million is, again, like, that's good money for a good number two.
And what will be interesting is that other half of that $150 million is they built in performance bonuses, roster bonuses, all that stuff that is not guaranteed, right? And this is why the NFL is stupid with their salary cap, but they're also brilliant in a lot of different ways. Because what they do is they say, this is how you kick the can down the road, restructure deals, you move those roster bonuses, convert them into a restructure as you make those bonuses into guaranteed money up front. So say Minnesota signs Justin Jefferson to this $150 million contract extension, $75 million of it is guaranteed. They do that, this next month. Then you have an initial cap hit that is through the roof when you have Sam Darnold, and we're assuming they draft a quarterback.
Whatever, your patchwork quarterback or your rookie.
So what they do is they're setting themselves up to when they go down a couple years down the road, they need to re-sign that quarterback or they need to make a move to bolster their roster and make the salary cap make sense. They will go a year before they have to pay that quarterback. All right, we're going to shuffle the deck chairs here, Justin Jefferson. We're going to take those bonuses that are not guaranteed, turn that into guaranteed money so we can take the hit before we have to pay our quarterback or edge rusher or
and
left
next year, we're not going to pay you anything.
And next year, we're not going to pay you anything. And so that's the crooked way of the NFL, but depending on how easy some of those bonuses are to reach,
which I would imagine a lot of them are.
Games played, yards, catches, touchdowns, all
awards.
the percentages of snaps, awards, Pro Bowls, all that stuff. You get all of those kind of built into your deal, and then they just say, or just being on the roster as of March 1, here's $10 million. You sit there and you say, we're going to scratch that, make it guaranteed. We're going to manipulate the cap and get you going. But I think what that does for the other guys, though, that tells you what you're worth for Jamar Chase, though, too, right? I mean, Jamar Chase, you may not be that $30 million guy, but your agent's sitting there going 28. And that right now, that's 11.7% of the cap is $30 million per year. If you're going with that as your cap hit for your wide receiver. I think, look, wide receiver is so important. I think that this market is going, it's bending too far. And we will see teams start digging in their heels because it's quarterback, it's left tackle, it's edge rusher, and damn it,
then
I want to champion for the tight ends because I think the tight end is so much more important. But you understand
they operate two facets of the game.
But you understand though the wide they're just so undervalued, so ridiculously undervalued.
The best tight end in football made $14 million last year.
The thing about a wide receiver though is how much room you can clear up vertically in two safeties and taking one guy out of the box and making sure people respect you down the field. And then the attention that you get with a guy like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, those types of how many sets of eyes have got to pay attention to them as they're crossing the field. It is invaluable for the offense. So I do see where teams are paying these guys, but it's very few that are that valuable to get that $30 million. Justin Jefferson, he's one of them.
And even then, the proliferation of wide receivers. Just how long? If I told you that Rome Odunze was the top 5 wide receiver in the NFL in the next 5 years, would that shock you?
No.
Malik Neighbors?
No, it may be, but no.
Marvin Harrison Jr.?
No.
Okay, now go back over the last 3 draft classes and ask the same question. You can get 1, 2, maybe 3 now every draft.
Every year.
That's how good wide receivers are every single year and have been probably for the last 7 years.
It really is. They're going to start talking about receivers like they used to talk about running backs. Dime a dozen. You can replace them really quickly. We don't need to be tied up in this.
As great as they are, why spend that kind of money when you can go get one every single year?
And this year's draft class is deep.
Yeah. And I don't think that's changing. Deep. Because we've talked about this so much. The 7-on-7 stuff, it doesn't mean anything for anybody except for maybe the wide receivers. These guys are just honing their craft, route running and ability all year long. It's changing. It's probably the one position that actually benefits the most from the 7-on-7 stuff.
And we're also seeing, and this is going to sound mean, but we're seeing a simplification of NFL offenses that we used to not see whether it was a West Coast offense, a run and shoot offense, where you had so much variation on any given play on where you were going. You had to have it far more dialed in to be a truly elite receiver. And I think that elite receivers, they do have this separation, but even great receivers back in the day, it was between the ears, right? And how smart were you and how quickly could you identify where you needed to go? Because in the second step of your route, you needed to determine whether you're running a post, whether you're running a curl, whether you're running a big out, whether you're running a snap out. It was within your first 2 steps, you had to be able to identify that. Offenses they've simplified a little bit in the NFL to where to be a great receiver, you don't need to be that locked in between the ears anymore either.
No.
I mean, that has changed dramatically. But the elite guys, they have that. They have a very high football IQ. And that's why I value the tight end position so much, is because you have to have that as a receiver and that as a lineman. And the elite ones, they can do it so damn well. And even though Travis Kelce is not a guy that you rely on in your run game, like a Gronk,
no,
say,
or a Kittle,
or George Kittle, he still has that lineman is still lurking in the back of his head, and his football.
You can't get
rid
of it no matter how hard you try.
It takes him a lot further than what he physically can do as a blocker. It's fascinating. I'm waiting to see when the tight ends fight back though.
Yeah,
tight ends, come on,
they're too dumb.
Oh man,
don't do that. Find me the smart tight end.
I will. George Kittle's very smart.
Is he?
He's just a meathead. Okay. Yeah. I think Kelce's a smart guy. You don't think Kelce's a smart guy? He's smart enough to land Taylor Swift.
Well, maybe he's dumb enough to land Taylor Swift.
Well,
I'm just saying.
You're not the.
I think he's a smart guy.
There's many people around him making that happen. You don't have to be smart in his situation.
Well, let's see. What's Travis Kelce's IQ?
Oh, because that's going to be accurate.
Is that on here? Oh, he got a 22 on his Wonderlic, which we know that is 100%.
Absolutely.
I mean,
How
George
do you know?
Kittle just looks like he's from the trailer park, so I do think that kind of puts him down a little bit.
And he went to Iowa, you know? Sorry, people from Iowa. All right. Hey, we had a basketball game last night in the NBA that I'm scratching my head over. Next on The Fan.
Hello, sports fans, and welcome to
Prime Time with Isaac and Sue.
I did not realize that we were not going to the coast till at least 2 hours into said ride.
Well, we're already over. We're gonna.
All right, time to go to break.
This is gonna have to be a turn and burn. We're gonna have to. We went very long
In a couple segments.
Hour number 2. Hour one.
Hour
Sorry.
number 1 still. Hour number 1 still. Come on, Schulte.
It's my fault.
No, it's not. I want to get to this though, coming up to start next hour, because I think it is really important that we stop this at its head, because there's a basketball game last night that had no business getting the attention that it did. Yet here we are on the importance of the win. We do have a bunch of pro days going on today. And I want, on the heels of the Justin Jefferson conversation, did you hear where the Vikings are today?
No. Are they at LSU?
There's reports that they are, no. They're not. They're not going to go to LSU's pro day. They're going to Ann Arbor to talk more with J.J. McCarthy, but Jaden Daniels will be making have a private workout with the Vikings.
Let Jaden Daniels fall. Let him fall. Go for it.
Well, either that or they think he'll just go 2 or 3 during smokescreen season. But LSU's having their pro day today, and I saw a report out of Minnesota that they were from the Purple Persuasion. How about that? You had head coach Kevin O'Connell and GM Kwesi Odofo-Mensah are not attending LSU or North Carolina's pro days today and tomorrow. They're spending time in Ann Arbor with J.J. McCarthy instead. Jim Harbaugh's working, folks. Jim Harbaugh's working.
Mm-hmm.
Where we got to start hour number 2. The win that's getting a lot of buzz next on The Fan.
Hello, sports fans. It's Marcus from the 808. How's it going?
the Los Angeles Lakers knock off the Bucks in double overtime, erasing a 19-point deficit to win 128-124 without LeBron James. Danny, why in the world is this game getting so much publicity, as if like now it seems like the national pundits are trying to tell me that the Lakers are actually like a playoff threat?
I mean, they are in the sense of you don't want to be the team that plays them because they do have LeBron, regardless of LeBron not playing or not, because Anthony Davis is still an all-world defender.
He has been out of his mind lately.
Yeah.
He's been playing really good basketball.
Yeah, you know why? Because Anthony Davis is finally playing the 5 over long periods of time.
Oh, no way.
The guy that didn't want to play it because he didn't want to get banged up, blah, 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 but he put on all that weight for it.
34 and 23 last night.
Look, it wasn't efficient until he closed the game out. He was not shooting well, and then he ends up doing just enough to where it's like, it's okay. The big difference here, and that ends up saving his night, is he goes 3 of 8 from 3. It's not the 3 it makes, it's the 8 attempts. Mm-hmm. Him finally getting up threes. That diversifies his offense. It opens things up. It makes things more functional for their offense, but he finishes with 34 and 23 with 2 steals and 4 blocks, and one of those blocks was an incredible top of the release. Dame turns the corner, gets to a finger roll, and you're like, "Whoo, that's nasty!"
It would have been a winner.
AD comes out of nowhere,
said no,
and just gets a fingertip on it, basically at the same height as the top of the box from the weak side rotation, and it's an incredible block. Now, AD has been Damian Lillard kryptonite since 2017. He's just got him, Drew, and Rondo, the 3-headed hydra that they were in that playoff series, fundamentally changed Dame as a player. But AD is a guy who understands Dame's timing. He just has that. Rudy Gobert is a defensive player of the year, and Dame absolutely tortures Rudy Gobert.
The crazy part about that Dame floater that Anthony Davis got to, it almost looked as if he was throwing a lob to Giannis on the backside of the rim.
But
it still didn't get there.
Didn't get, because he got it at the top of the box. And it wasn't like he pinned it. He just took a 1-2 and then loaded up for a power hop and just went straight up. And it was incredible timing.
This is wholly my Laker hatred coming out, though. But it does seem as if like this, they're like, oh, the Lakers did it without LeBron. Well, if you look into the way the Lakers play without LeBron, they actually score more points. And I think that those 8 3-point attempts that you're talking about with Anthony Davis, that LeBron taking the air out of the ball, I think that it goes a long ways with AD in this offense kind of operating a little bit more smoothly. They're not better without LeBron James. They are not a better team.
It's a different dynamic.
Wholly different dynamic.
The other part of this dynamic is Dame and Beasley going 0 from 3. I mean, they went 8 of 28 combined.
Yeah. And what is being overlooked is the Bucks were coming off of a really damn impressive win over the Oklahoma City Thunder 2 nights earlier. And
they just shot like crap from 3. They were 15 of 51.
And it doesn't help the situation when guys like Damian Lillard over his last 10 games is shooting 43% from the field, 40% from 3.
Yeah, no, he's been out
27,
of this 27, 9, and 5.
But last night it was highlighted as if like the Lakers are back.
And then Austin Reeves was shutting him down. Blah blah.
I like Austin Reeves.
I do too, but he's
also
he's in the prestige zone.
Just being a Laker?
Being a Laker. Because if he was on any other team, nobody would care. That's not true. If he was on the Knicks, he would get the same kind of treatment, and possibly the Warriors.
Well, if he was in the Heat, he'd be in your mentions all last summer.
Remember,
it's a trade piece of equal value for Damian Lillard.
Remember a month ago, Jonathan Kuminga? How did the Warriors not play him? Why didn't the Blazers trade for him? Where's he at right now? Okay, that's what we call the prestige zone. A player plays well for a month, and oh my God!
Okay.
But I'm not panicking if I'm the Bucks. You had a really crappy shooting night, and the Lakers played really well defensively. Your free throw attempts were 32-17.
Wasn't that a Doc Rivers special, though? A game that you should win, coming off of a big win over Oklahoma City where you were emphatic in the way that you beat them. And it's a really dang good team in OKC, which now, oh, by the way, while nobody was paying attention, the Nuggets are now the number 1 seed in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
Just
and then
want to throw that one out there for everybody who.
OKC's struggling a little bit here, but I mean, you have Middleton go 4 of 15, Dame go 9 of 29, and Beasley go 8 of 18. Also, by the way, Dame 49 minutes, Giannis 46 minutes.
I love Doc Rivers palms up though the whole time. Like, what? How could this possibly be going wrong? We've seen this.
I think it's more of a one-off than anything else. It was a 128 to 124 game in a game that went to double overtime.
Love it.
I don't think there's really anything you can draw from this either way.
But it appears
will
that
be.
the talking heads want to.
Oh, are you
make
kidding
it
me?
into
An
something.
opportunity to say something good about the Lakers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Warriors won last night too, if you were wondering. All of Rip City should be hoping that they continue to lose. They absolutely thumped the Miami Heat.
Look, if the Heat weren't going to beat them and do the Trailblazers any favors with their lottery odds, then the Warriors mercilessly just throttling the living hell out of the Heat was a nice second place.
All right,
I'm good with that.
we'll take that. We'll take that. Danny hates Miami.
I mean, you look at it right now, Miami's 7th in the East, and they're now a game and a half back of 6th.
We need to get a travel agency to just like endorsement Danny Does Miami, where you like have a trip and you vacation in Miami with your people. They are your people now. You own them after last summer.
Yeah,
they are your people.
Yes, on that front, yes, that's fair, including their beat writers.
Yeah, we could set up a lunch with you and what's his name,
Barry.
Barry.
Yeah.
You and Barry can go to lunch together. I think it'd be fantastic. We should do this.
It'd be fun.
Yeah, like you guys, you just have like your socials. You just snap pics like you guys are a couple on a date.
A little brunch.
Yeah, brunch with Barry.
Little mimosas.
Yeah,
Hey, you know what? I bet
Danny
you-
on South Beach.
In Miami, I could probably get a good mojito.
I bet you get a great mojito
damn
down
right.
there.
Get a good mojito down there.
And he set you up down there with a Tyler Hero jersey to walk around on the beach with. No, we're talking now, huh?
I'll go say that was up to Raph.
Or Jaime Jaquez jersey.
No, it's got to be a Duncan. It's got to be a Duncan Robinson.
Look, man, I like Jaime.
Yeah,
That's the messed up part of this whole summer. It was like people were like, "You hate Jaime." I was like, "No, I just don't want to trade Damian Lillard for him." What the hell are we doing here?
we'll get you the half jerseys. We'll just split it into quarters because they wanted Hero, Jaquez,
And Jovic.
Jovic on the
splits them all
back.
together?
Yeah. You have it's a Jovic on the back. Half is split with Jaquez and Hero, and you can just roll around Miami in
There
there.
you go. Call it the Dame trade package jersey.
The haul that should have been. Yeah.
They just watch you just angrily walking around Miami.
I mean,
wearing it.
I'd be fine. That'd probably piss some other people off. Be okay with it.
All right. 503-864-6326. They are back, baby. Next on The Fan.
It's The Fan on demand.
They're kind of fun to play with, aren't they?
Now, fan podcasts are better than ever with whole show podcasts.
I appreciate you because we needed a hamster to pedal this wheel around.
And you can still get newsmaker interviews in any hour from your favorite fan shows.
Yes. All right.
coming back.
Say it again.
Well, in recruiting. We'll see if they can play together. The USC Trojans had, was it 5 commitments over the past weekend? Four commitments over the past weekend?
Yep, and 2 of them were the best players at their positions in the country.
They added 5-star defensive lineman Justice Terry as a verbal commitment. They had, who is the
edge rusher from Georgia?
4-star edge rusher. Wait, both of them are from Georgia, I thought.
I thought one's Warner Robin. I thought the other one. Well, I guess they could both be from Georgia.
I think, and the quarterback is too. I think they
are they all from Georgia? Good God!
They got 3 from.
Is Newman from there? Julian from there too?
I don't know. You're the USC fan. I was sitting there and I was looking for you for the names of these guys as they ended up getting Justice Terry, defensive lineman from Manchester, Georgia. Julian Lewis, a quarterback out of Carlton, Georgia. The defensive tackle, Isaiah Gibson, the edge rusher, Isaiah Gibson from Warner Robins, Georgia.
Yeah, they all are Georgia.
Yep. And then they got a safety from Florida and a Texas defensive lineman named Gus Cordova, which that is the most defensive lineman name you could possibly have, in Gus Cordova.
Unfortunately, he was embroiled in some controversy, but let's see if that clears itself up.
Like what?
He may or may not have been involved in feeding peanuts to another student with a peanut allergy.
Sounds like a good guy.
Yeah.
Boy, that's
dumb, bully, idiot stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's able to be cleaned up.
Like, a guy named Gus Cordova, D lineman,
O'Doyle rules.
Boy.
Yeah.
Nothing bad happened though, right? Like, the kid didn't die.
No, but apparently,
but still, that's
got pretty
not
sick kind of a deal. Yeah,
it's not a good. Oh, I remember reading about that where there was peanuts, and then they felt bad about it, and so they took the peanuts away, and there was still the residue, and the kid was really allergic to them.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is him. This is him. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, he was like a 4 or 5-star guy, but ended up not being able to play, so he fell back down. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, USC is back to recruiting the way that we all have expected USC to recruit
for 20 years.
Lincoln Riley said this is a big credit to a couple of things. One, they have tripled their spending in NIL this year. And look, at USC, you have to be able to spend more than other people because part about NIL is that these kids get taxed on their NIL dollars. And California, not cheap. Not cheap when you get $1 million endorsements there, bud.
Prohibited. But also, it's $75,000 a year to go to USC. So they've got money.
Huh? What do you? They're not paying that.
No. I'm saying the school, they have money. The NIL department, they have money.
Oh, well, no, it's been really hard for them to get that money.
But that's what I'm saying. They have the money. It's just been able to get to it. So the whole idea of them not paying because they're dumb is wild.
And, well, they were doing it for years tax-free.
Yeah. $140,000 bag found on Lendell White's, what was it, his bed in his apartment?
Yeah.
Once a month?
That seems like a pretty good return.
Tax-free, baby!
My gosh. Well, and they're also saying that they are allowing them to spend money on the defensive side of the ball, and they're letting their new defensive coordinator who came in, and they're letting him recruit the way he sees fit. And Lincoln Riley is not getting in the way anymore because this is a huge year for Lincoln Riley. I mean, it is. If you don't win this year, and this is the problem with this recruiting class, it may be really good, but it's for next year. Yeah. It's for 2025. Yeah. And you cannot go into the Big Ten with the trenches the way that they have been. They will get dominated. And they did improve through the transfer portal yet again. They're trying to put Band-Aids on bullet holes. But the good thing that they have going for them is the mass exodus to the NFL draft out of Michigan, their head coach leaving. Sharon Moore now has to take over as a head coach for the University of Michigan. So one of the top powers is down a little bit, but Ohio State is going to be absolutely loaded this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to the gills. Penn State is going to be really good. Oregon is going to be really good this next year. And Wisconsin is supposed to be on the upswing this year in the Big Ten. But one thing that we know about even the teams in the middle of the road in the Big Ten, in the trenches, they are good.
The big fellows.
Iowa, good in the trenches. Wisconsin, very good in the trenches. Brett Bielema in Illinois, they're going to be good in the trenches.
He likes his hog mollies.
You can win in a lot of different places if you're USC, but if you get dominated up front, we saw that's where they had their hiccups in the Pac-12.
Yes, against Utah.
And this is probably the biggest sign of, USC truly turning a corner is the fact that they are investing in both their offensive and their defensive lines for the first time that we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, and the big thing here is, yes, they're actually landing not only big name recruits, but big name recruits with size on the defensive side of the ball. And I was talking to Andrew Nemec, a host of the recruiting show here, and runs things for SB Live on their recruiting side for college football, high school football. And I go, this is great, man, but let me know when they actually land the offensive lineman. Like, this is the first step, but what made USC great was, yes, Reggie Bush and Lendell White and Mike Williams, and you just run down the list of skill guys. Go look at two things: their offensive line and their linebackers.
Yeah, when you're pumping out guys like Eric Winston, the Khalil brothers, I mean, it was the year in and year out.
All pros.
This is where I think their hire at defensive coordinator, Eric Henderson,
has been huge.
He is a guy that is a very good recruiter, but he's also knows how to navigate the waters of what separates you in the world of NIL now. And it is talent development, and it is who you know as well. And like The Athletic has a piece up right now, our buddy Antonio Morales, and he profiles kind of like the relationship that Aaron Donald has with Eric Henderson. They go way back, and
Aaron Donald was
using that to kind of try to grab guys. The one thing that I think USC, you need to be weary of, you may have pissed off Georgia. Because you go into their backyard and you get 3, and when Kirby Smart and those guys start taking the gloves off, that's when it's going to get gnarly. And these are, I mean, one of them was committed to Georgia.
Yes.
And
Justice was the one that was committed.
I think this is going to be the one where a lot of these guys, and this is the world of NIL.
Hey, they come get their skill guys out of Southern California. They can.
You hold on. You hold on to these guys for as long as you can, because sometimes the win in the recruiting battle is just not letting them come into your backyard, right? And that's the important thing. And I appreciate that from Lincoln Riley and this staff, is that they're just saying, no, like, screw this. We're going to recruit California and dominate California. That is gone in the world of college football.
He had that comment he had of like, yeah, we want to have the best guys from our state, but we're not just going to control California. We want to go wherever the best players in the country are and go get them. And I thought that was an interesting line. It's clearly something they were hinting towards with this. But I also believe that you're Southern California. You need to put a moat around Southern California and make it yours. You have, if not the most fertile recruiting ground in the country, second at worst as an individual state.
No, Georgia is ahead of California
right now. They are
in Texas and Florida. I mean, Southern California is still, for skill positions, you need linemen elsewhere.
Yeah, no.
But it's still it's Texas, Florida, Georgia.
I should have specified on skill position side.
Position, it's not even close.
Yeah, it's California that they come
Texas,
here from all over the country.
Florida, California. You can pick your order, but big boys in the South.
Yes. Yeah, no, you go get your hog mollies from the South or from Iowa.
That's right. Upper Midwest.
You import your steak from the upper Midwest or down south.
This is going to be one to keep an eye on. I think it's good for college football. It's good for USC when they have the ability and they have the commitment to recruiting. And upping that budget by 3 times for your NIL, they were getting lapped by the top recruiting schools. And make no mistake, like, that is where this is all heading. I saw Troy Dannon. He had his introductory press conference in Nebraska, and he said it. He said, we are starting to earmark money in the future for paying student athletes. We don't know how much we're going to be earmarking, but student athletes as employees is coming down the pipeline. And the schools that are getting their NIL ducks in a row and doing it well and sustainably setting up their NIL, those are going to be the universities that are going to be able to thrive once the legislation finally comes down that we are all expecting of student athletes being treated as employees.
Yeah, we're not that far away
USC,
from that.
USC's getting there, man.
Yeah, and they actually might be there sooner than everyone else, much like Dartmouth, because they're a private school.
They were a mess in the NIL realm. An absolute mess in the NIL.
And we talked about that last year and what was going on kind of behind the scenes. And not surprising when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, and getting Jen Cohen in to try to sort that stuff out was a big move.
Well, I think a big move, too, is like, look, Lincoln Riley getting
Stepping
out of his
aside,
own way.
yeah.
I mean, he is his...
He just wants to coach football.
But he was such a micromanager.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I mean, that's why people at Oklahoma, when they left, oh, good riddance.
Yeah.
They didn't really mean that. But at the same time, it was he micromanaged to the nth degree, and we saw that the first couple of years at USC.
Mm-hmm.
If he's taken his finger off a little bit of that scale, that's good.
Yeah,
because
they could get
let him be the offensive mind he is.
Yeah, and if you get that boulder rolling down in L.A., we've seen what it can do.
If they have a tough year, do you think that they change course with Lincoln Riley?
No.
Because they have LSU,
Yeah.
Michigan, Wisconsin, Penn State, Washington,
It's a brutal schedule.
and Notre Dame on their schedule next year.
That's a brutal schedule.
Yikes.
You expect Michigan and LSU to both be down a little bit after sending everybody to the NFL, but
You're gonna start hearing those cries a little bit, because that would be
if Miller Moss is the guy that they are internally saying he is, then they have a chance to be competitive.
which is competitive for the Big Ten championship.
Mhm.
That's where you should be. You're USC, for God's sakes.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
and if they're there, if they finish with, I think the bar is probably 8 wins.
Big Ten is 8 wins ain't getting you the Big Ten title.
No, I think that's
Yeah.
the worst it can be.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Like, as long as
It's like,
as long as he gets to 8, I don't think there's any problems. But if they drop below 8, then you're probably eyebrows start raising.
Yeah.
But if they hit 8, they're fine. 9, totally okay. 10, you're going okay.
This text is an interesting one, and I think it's true. It's like money isn't the reason Oregon is lapping USC in recruiting. That's why money won't catch USC up to Oregon. It will catch them up, but I mean, you can laugh, but what Oregon prides themselves on is relationship building in their recruiting. The NIL obviously helps a ton, but
Remind me, what was it that got Oregon good? Was it the $1 billion from Phil Knight, or was it building relationships?
well, that was the branding of it all. But if you're looking at recruiting, how many guys have we seen that have boomeranged?
Oh yeah, back to where
in
no,
recruiting?
that matters for sure.
It matters a ton with the way that they're going about it. And one of the things that Lincoln Riley was criticized for in his recruiting process was him being aloof towards recruits when they were there. I mean, that matters a ton.
His thing has been, if you're not one of his guys, you're not one of his guys.
And that you cannot be that as a recruiter. Like, and I think that's what that texter is pointing out, is their recruiting has been based on, and like, this is why he's really good at recruiting receivers and quarterbacks, because he does do a great job of developing that.
Yep.
But everywhere else, there has been a
That's been the
massive
problem.
shortfall.
Yeah, that's always the thing that we talked about was, can they get somebody else in there? Because they have not had somebody else in there that recruits the team since T. Martin.
Money gets you a long way in this. It always has in recruiting.
Yes,
that's
why
not a
USC
secret.
was what they were.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Pete and that assistant coaching staff, which you go back and look at and you go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But they did have great relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's why you hear from guys who would die for Pete.
And I'll tell you one thing about the NIL world, where this is the biggest criticism of what USC was doing before. It wasn't a ton of money, and it wasn't sustainable. And what's sustainable is where are you investing this money towards it being in the future and funding your future classes, not just a year-to-year
the $13 million a year Ohio State roster stuff.
You can't go, like we were talking earlier, selling chocolate bars to fundraise money for NIL. And that's what some of these schools were doing. And USC was like, we committed all this money that we don't know if we have it right now to our recruiting classes. You have to be able to structure this thing out, and that's
to where
where
it makes sense going forward.
A lot of the collectives that are light years ahead of everybody else at the beginning, that's why they're recruiting so well, is because they have that buttoned up, and it appears USC does, and that's huge. That is huge.
That's the biggest difference for them going forward. if they can actually figure that out.
Very big.
All right, coming up next. Look, there's plenty of reasons to shame Patrick Mahomes and his wife. But we found one why he just shouldn't. But first, here's Jordan Schultz with the Sports Center update.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop. Their butchers are all trained chefs eager to help with cooking advice. Get to know your friendly neighborhood butcher online at laurelhurstmarket.com. First on The Fan, a couple of moves in the NFL today to announce. The Denver Broncos signing wide receiver Josh Reynolds for 2 years and up to $14 million. And the Carolina Panthers bringing in linebacker Jadeveon Clowney for 2 years and a max value of $24 million. In the association, the Trailblazers back in action tonight, facing the Hawks in Atlanta. Malcolm Brogdon and Anthony Simons out. Jeremy Grant doubtful. DeAndre Ayton and Matisse Thybulle are questionable. The Hawks a 10.5-point favorite. Tip-off set for 4:30 p.m. on Root Sports. In baseball, the last major free agent has finally found a home. Starting pitcher Jordan Montgomery has signed a 1-year, $25 million contract with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He pitched against them in the World Series last season for the Rangers. And the Los Angeles Dodgers spending even more cash. They have signed catcher Will Smith to a 10-year, $140 million extension. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The original home of the Herd with Colin Cowherd. Weekdays 9 to noon, 1080 The Fan.
Commercial Industrial Auctioneers is holding their car, truck, and heavy equipment public
All right, there's plenty of reasons to throw crap at Patrick Mahomes and his wife, Brittany Mahomes, and especially Jackson Mahomes.
Oh, yeah.
The list is long.
Yeah.
Whether it's spraying people with champagne, doing stupid TikTok dances, or just being kind of weird.
Or Pat Mahomes Sr.
Yeah, getting a DUI again.
Yeah.
Found one that, and look, man, we all saw Patrick Mahomes in his dad bod. He's not late career divorced dad energy Tom Brady yet.
No, we also saw in the quarterback series, he does put a lot of time and money into his body.
Absolutely.
In preparations.
But look,
you don't have to be chiseled.
No, but also you take that month off.
Yeah,
gotta let the body just fully just relax.
I'm in lockstep with Patrick Mahomes in this regard.
Yeah, we also found out from that documentary his spine works unlike anyone else. It's almost like a cat. Like the way that he can twist.
He's got a weird spine.
It's how he makes some of those throws that he does. It's amazing.
It's like Michael Phelps having double-jointed shoulders and knees.
Bendy.
Kind of built for what you do.
You know what? Too much muscle might affect that spine.
There
Like
you
you
go.
don't want
Yeah.
you don't want to become
No.
too tight and tense. Maybe we found the secret
The
to
secret
the sauce.
is this? Yeah. Brittany Mahomes threw out on IG a picture of Patrick Mahomes in the background. In the foreground, her what appear to be very giant hands holding full-size
Drumsticks.
drumsticks. They're not actually full-size. They're little mini drumsticks. I'm making fun of her hands because I'm a monster. But they're like little mini drumsticks. They're probably like 2.5, 3 inches. They're like the size of a large marble dip cone, right? But the caption is, anyone else eat 10 of these a night? Because he does. And it's Patrick Mahomes with a sly look on the side of his face.
He was getting crushed for this, and I think we need to stand up for old Patrick Mahomes
Look,
here.
these are like the size of a large bite of ice cream. So the guy having a bowl of ice cream plus
a large bowl of delicious ice cream, which we know the drumsticks delivery mechanism is light years ahead of everything else. I don't blame him for this
Also,
because it's
the
got the
mini
little
ones?
chocolate at the
Yeah.
bottom of it. It's a treat to have those, and they're delicious. I'm not going to shame him. They're 10 small ones.
Yes,
now,
they
if
are.
he was eating 10 full-size drumsticks,
That's a different story because I feel like each one of those is like 600 calories.
I think Andy Reid would say,
bro,
Pat, we need to gear that back a little bit here. We need to take this down a notch or two. But as it stands, I am in solidarity with Patrick Mahomes and his 10 mini ice creams. In fact, I now want to try to see what the 10 mini ice creams is all about. Maybe I can become the next Patrick Mahomes. But that dude, he's got bendy spine. We don't want to mess with too much muscle on the bendy spine. It's the secret that makes him great. And then on top of that, why are we crushing the guy? He just won back-to-back Super Bowls. Whatever he's doing in his offseason seems to be working out just fine.
Who are these people in the comments? Is this like fellow NFL players or just jackasses online? Because if it's jackasses online,
internet.
Julie, have you played in one NFL game?
It's internet.
Shut up!
It's internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of dumb out there. But look, I've talked to God knows how many NBA players who, after a long season, they all take a month off.
Yeah.
They take a month off. I mean, Jokic takes the entire summer off.
Let
does
your
not
body recover.
touch a basketball.
And if that body recovery is just by filling you up with delicious little mini ice cream
And
cones,
you work it out.
you do you. This needs to stop. We need to stop body shaming Patrick Mahomes because, again, every normal looking human being out there, Patrick Mahomes can give you that feeling of I can do that too.
And
I can
can't.
shuffle my feet down the field and never look like I'm actually getting into a running stride, yet outrun people who run a 4.5.
Sure.
You know, just like Patrick Mahomes
100%.
can.
Well, not to shame Michael Phelps or anything for his diet, but didn't he have, when he was training, like a 10,000 calorie a day diet that involved just all kinds of junk food? So what, if you look sexy, you're allowed to eat like this, but if you have a dad bod, you cannot? Is that the rule here? Internet people?
Tom Brady screwed us all up in the brain. Not drinking beer or eating strawberries even because they didn't adhere to the TB12.
Avoiding mushrooms and tomatoes.
That really hurt us. And I mean, to Tom's credit, he ran a faster 40 at the age of 45 than he did at 21 years old.
Which, if I tried to do that, my legs would fall off.
I think most of us fall into that category, but not him. It was great. And look,
Benjamin Button-ass quarterback.
Great text here. Mini ice creams, greater than bubble water. You know, Russell Wilson claimed that the bubble water was curing his concussions.
Yeah, the alkaline water.
I'm going to go, I want my quarterback eating more mini ice cream cones than drinking bubble water.
Yeah.
And Russell Wilson, not humbling himself.
No.
The
photo of him in the weight room with
video of him lifting weights with sunglasses indoors. That should not make Steeler fans feel more comfortable with him humbling himself after what happened in Seattle and Denver. So I stand in solidarity with Patrick Mahomes.
Let him get his ice cream cone on.
Eat more mini ice cream cones.
How much you want to bet somebody's going to show up at training camp? Some fan with like a box of.
Well,
for him.
Andy Reid is going to come and think those are for him.
Yeah,
and he's
for
gonna be like,
me.
little chicky nuggies. He's gonna walk his little fingers right across that mine.
He won't need anybody to bring him. They'll just sign him to a sponsorship deal. They'll just like set him up with a whole room of him at his house.
Anybody, like any fan of a team, you want your quarterback and your coach to be in lockstep. You know,
I bet you Andy Reid is trading recipes with Patrick Mahomes.
This is
not Brittany Mahomes, because I don't think she can cook.
They are working as one together.
Yeah.
You know, they love their precious desserts. Remember when Russell Wilson used to talk like Pete Carroll, like he picked up his cadence and how he talks. You had Bill Belichick was able to berate Tom Brady like everybody else for 20 years until Tom was like,
I've had enough
sick
of this
this
crap.
I'm done. But you have to have that yin and yang. They have to go together and they have to fit together so well. We're seeing that with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and I'm here for it. I'm here for all of it.
Do you think Andy has shared his chili recipe?
No.
With Patrick Mahomes?
No, I feel like Andy. No, I don't think
he freely gives it away.
That may be a bridge too far. Though.
He freely gives it away, though.
He drops it. He'll drop it on his porch.
There was a reporter. Hell, it might have been Deshaun with the Raiders that he talked to. No, God, it was one of the Athletic beat reporters. Ran into Andy Reid in an airport and asked him for his chili recipe, and was like, "Here you go."
I think that's something you need to make for your quarterback. Though.
Yeah, right.
You know, you make it for him. You just drop it on his front doorstep.
Or it was mac and cheese with like 6 different cheeses. I can't remember which one it was.
Boy.
Please.
Talking about how, like, the coach and the quarterback kind of meld together. I'm very fascinated to see what the next evolution of Justin Herbert is with Jim Harbaugh as his coach. It
was Charles McDonald with Yahoo Sports. 4 verts. Andy Reid gave him his top secret mac and cheese recipe, and it had
mac and cheese.
Yeah,
now we're talking.
It wasn't chili. It was grated Fontina, grated mozzarella, grated Parmesan, grated sharp cheddar, Gouda, and Gruyere.
See, there we go.
Got to get that Tillamook sharp cheddar in there, though.
If Justin Herbert turns into Jim Harbaugh clone, that will be the weirdest pivot of all time. There will be more of an edge to Justin Herbert than what we've seen in the past. But I am here for Justin Herbert in Jim Harbaugh. I don't know, maybe they spend a weekend in the RV. Like I saw Harbaugh was talking about like he loves texting Herbert every day to see what he's doing on the ranch and what he's fishing for and all this stuff. It's like, okay.
Smoking some meats outside the RV.
Yeah, like or burning heaters. Like they neither
just
of them
ripping
smoke.
darts.
They just have some Marlboros in the RV park where Greg Roman is 100 feet away in his RV. Harbaugh and Roman are living in an RV park 100 feet away from each other.
I'm surprised they're not, nut to butt up there.
This thing, if they just circle the wagons and you have
literal wagons.
Herbert brings his big old RV in there and they just have a little fortress of football that they build. I'm here for it all.
I would like to see it. That's where Hard Knocks needs to go.
It looks like they're going to Chicago. They're going to be with the Bears.
I mean, that could be fun.
It would be very fun.
We'll get to see how it's. You know what? They'll see. This is how Poles gets his friend Eberflus fired. Everybody gets to see. Like, when we saw Nathaniel Hackett, we're like,
I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, this isn't gonna work, dog. And everybody was right. They're gonna see this and go, see, I had to get rid of you. I didn't have a choice. I know we're friends, but you had to go.
We can't do this anymore.
You had to go. Coming up next, we are actually not going to dive into the Andy Reid chili mac and cheese recipe, but instead we will go to college sports where the bell that I rang just a few days ago about getting rid of prop bets in sports has been picked up, possibly along the lines of college sports. We'll get to that here and more on Danny and Dusty, Danny the Fan.
Hello, sports fans, and
shell prop bet scandal in professional sports history here in North America. NCAA President Charlie Baker is now calling for a ban on prop bets in college sports with legal sports wagering.
I think that is a smart move. You are way too close to the action when you have prop bets in college athletes, because like in the NBA, in the Jonte Porter situation, like that's a professional athlete, man. Like if you can get to a professional athlete, it is exponentially easier to get to a college athlete. Like banning player props in college sports, I'm all for. In professional sports, I mean, they're professionals. Like you can keep it, but I feel like in college athletics, it can be a really slippery slope.
I think you maybe go with team props in professional sports, but away from player props. I think that's the way it's got to go. But as it pertains to college, it needs to go, and here's the reason why. There are 133 alone Division I football teams.
Yep.
There are 351 Division I basketball teams. That is 10,000 plus.
Yeah,
loopholes
it's too accessible.
that you can get to and exploit, and that's just at the Division I level.
Yeah.
And that's just basketball and football. It's just there's too much vulnerability there.
You shouldn't be able to bet on anything outside of Division I. I firmly believe that.
And yet, go to Vegas, and what can we find?
D3 rugby. You can find almost everything.
There's action on everything.
Everything, but I think that is where you can really, man, you're gonna have to nickel and dime because it'll be red flagged if you have any substantial amount of money bet on.
$10,000 bet, yeah.
But I mean, it's like, good Lord, if you can get win totals in Division III football, like Linfield in winning over the half their games, that's a bank, man. Go.
How many straight years have they done it now?
I think they're up
30?
to like no, they're like up to almost 60.
Is it that long?
I think they may have eclipsed 60. I think it's upwards of like 57.
A lot.
Yeah.
Almost a life's worth. God.
Yeah. It's a lot. And they're very proud of it. I'm sure. 67. They've won 67. The streak began in 1956. They've won 81% of their football games since 1956.
That seems good.
Yeah, and they're for the first time this year they're playing an even number of games, 10, because they've always had odd to make sure that they keep the streak alive.
Up, yeah.
And so they played like 9 games. Now they added the 10th, so they could have a 500 season.
Just got to get to 5.
They couldn't go over 5. No, they got to go over 500.
Yeah, Vegas would love that push, right?
Yeah. But see, that's the thing with like D. You should not be betting on D3 sports. I mean, that's where if you place that bet, that's where the 800 numbers should just be returned right across. Like, do you have a gambling problem? You're betting on D3, D2 parlays right now, but player props in college sports, I'm out. I agree with Charlie Baker. They may be fun and you may see them as harmless, but you just mentioned that you got 10,000 student athletes. That's way too many student athletes that you
and you're rotating through all the time. They're not there for 10 years. And here's the thing. As of right now, Ohio, Vermont, and Maryland do not allow college prop bets. So they are sending this out to push for the other states to adopt that. And look, again, full disclosure, I bet on college sports just a couple days ago. And not only that, I bet on props, but I bet on team props.
Team props, like over-unders.
In the first half, total threes made, those kind of things. I think those are okay. I think they need to take player props.
Out.
Entirely out. I don't even think that's a question.
And if you're wondering, like, how many of these kids could be manipulated? We talked about this yesterday.
All of them.
A former Syracuse guard just got arrested for being Diddy's drug mule in Miami.
And this is not this is not a shot at athletes or saying that if you are looking back right now and you don't think 18-year-old you with the thought of somebody handing you $10,000 in cash to shave a point, I'd be above that. No, you wouldn't.
There's a lot of people that probably have a lot of those regrets as college athletes who were on that take, because as you grow, You're sitting there, and if you're in your 40s or you're in your 50s, you're like, I wouldn't do that. Well, now you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
But
back then, when you're a broke college student eating ramen at McDonald's, yeah, you would.
Yeah.
Because $10,000 is life-changing.
Yeah, and
that's not a shot at your morality or your courage or anything. The whole idea they're exploiting you because you are vulnerable.
Yeah. And this is a really good text too, is like, if the states don't do it, the sports books might, just because if they feel like they're losing money on it, why would you keep that up? But again, this is like a great majority of college athletes, they're not on the take, and they wouldn't be on the take. But you want to limit any of the controversies that can arise down the road.
Because
and I think it's smart by the NCAA. Hey, are we actually applauding the NCAA president for something? I want Danny on the record. Are you you agree with him?
Yeah, but he got there before after I did.
How do you know that? He said it on the same day.
I said it a couple
yesterday.
days ago.
Yesterday.
Mine was Monday because Jonte Porter was Monday. So I was ahead of him, and I'm a dummy. So there you go. Come on now. But yeah, this needs to happen. This absolutely unequivocally needs to happen. And I honestly would not be against them getting rid of player props in professional sports either. And I know people are like, oh no, I have no issue with gambling. It's if that's your thing, that's your vice, that's totally fine. Everybody has their things. I think the way that those are targeted, they're the candy cigarettes of gambling.
Well, I think that guys like Jonte Porter should not have props available.
That's a big part of it. But I think just get rid of individual player props, because it was like, oh, it's fun. It's also the thing that when you look at the market breakup, player props are drastically overrepresented by the under 25 crowd.
Yeah. And that's to each their own.
That's a problem because it's the get them hooked early.
Yeah, you think
it's because fantasy sports, sports is where you get into, and that's individual statistical success or failures.
And the immediate gratification or chase that you get in the player props.
And you think the betting books won't be pushing or lobbying to try and stop that from ever happening? Maybe college, professional sports, they will spend billions to stop that from happening.
Yep. And I'm also reminded on the Vancouver Ford text line, hey, now, McDonald's is way more unaffordable for college kids these days. Have you seen the price of those value meals? Which is exactly why you'd take the $10,000. Yeah. Also, 38-year-old me would also do that. So
take the money?
Take the money, because why not?
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
I'd take it too.
All right, coming up next here in hour number 3, a question that I posed to Dusty that made his brain absolutely short circuit. We'll get to that and more coming up here in hour number 3. Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Number 3 here on Danny and Dusty on a wet Wednesday. The wettest of Wednesdays, perhaps, with a half-inch of rain out there. Spoiling all you golfers that are maybe trying to sneak away for a little midweek jaunt.
Go indoors. Go to X Golf.
Indeed.
Tomorrow.
You can join us tomorrow in Tualatin and Friday in Vancouver. Whether you're listening on 1080 AM The Fan, watching on youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan, or twitch.tv/1080 AM The Fan, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you. All right. I asked you this question off air before the show. The idea of the NBA draft coming up. If the Blazers find themselves picking 4th, 5th, 6th in this draft, a draft that is considered to be flat, not having a franchise-changing or altering player that you can clearly say, yes, that guy is a foundational building piece. Are you drafting for fit, or are you taking the best player available? Because what happens if the Blazers go to pick and Nikola Topic, who is a 6'5", 6'6" ball handling guard, is the best player on the board? Do the Blazers have the ability to say no to him if he's the best player available and the players after him, you're going to go, I don't know. Let's say the biggest swing on the board is a guard. Are you saying no to that?
I don't think you can say yes. I mean, think like all of a sudden, everything that you do to untangle the mess that Neil O'Shea created with a guard-dependent lineup, that you continue to go down that cycle if you draft another guard. Like, this is something that, look, I hate this for Joe Cronin in the spot that he is in, because if you draft another guard, the fan base revolts.
Even if that player turns out to be incredibly good, the sins of the father.
But where does he fit in, even if he is really good, where does he fit on this roster? Mm-hmm. Because either you're admitting that Scoot Henderson is not the guy at 3 who you drafted just a year ago, or
you're willing to let them figure it out.
Okay, but at the same time, then you just have this backlog of players at one position, which that sounds familiar, and they're guys that aren't going to get you over the top and be competitive immediately. Like, this is nightmare fuel for Joe Cronin, because you, at the same time, if you go for need and you are drafting for need and filling that roster, this draft isn't it. This draft isn't it. So I think you have to go with the need over the best player available, despite the fact your roster isn't ready to have, like, pass up greatness. Even at the guard positions, when you have Anthony Simons and you have Scoot Henderson, I think what you're doing is you're getting on the phone and you're asking for a trade. And seeing who's going to trade for Scoot and or Ant, and then
or the player at that spot.
Or the player at that spot. But that you're not going to be getting a whole heck of a lot of return. You're going to be getting draft assets in return. And you're saying, all right, can we trade one of our existing players that will have a greater value for something that we can trade for need at a position, as opposed to trading that draft pick where you're probably just slotting yourself back further in the draft where you already have Golden State's pick anyway. And you're all of a sudden acquiring multiple young guys that still aren't getting you over the hump. I think you try to draft that best player available, even if he is a guard, and then trying to trade one of the other two that you have there currently. I think that's the only play that you can get, but you're admitting that either Scoot ain't it and we're going guard this year, or you're going and saying our lone creator on this team right now, and Anthony Simons, we're going to let him go, and we're going to try to develop two very young guards with, and look, we're not kidding ourselves here. It is the 3 and the 4s where they need to upgrade the most.
Yes. And the thing about this, that I think there's a door number 3 here where they could take a guard and it would be detrimental on the public side, quote unquote. I don't think it would, and this is a hypothetical, this is not the way I would go. I don't think it would mean the end of Scoot as much as it is, let's see what happens here. But the flip side of this is, I was talking to an executive, I want to say probably 2 years ago. Might have been at Hoop Summit. And we were talking about players in draft and stockpiling assets. And I mentioned a wing, and I was like, man, imagine if you guys had drafted that guy and this guy. And he goes, well, that guy wouldn't have been that guy because we would have probably split development time between the two of them. You have to prioritize the development time. Otherwise, you can't. It's not going to work. When you try to split it between two guys like that, you have to make that decision. Or one guy doesn't rise to the top. I talked to somebody else, though, who was like, if you bring in a couple of dogs and you throw one bone in there, you go full Joker and say, whoever comes out alive, that's a development method, too. It's a more drastic one.
It's not one that will appease the fan base, or no. I don't think it appeases ownership either.
No, but
this is why
it is a way to perhaps find a guy going forward.
From May 12th, when the draft lottery is, until the draft was at June 18th.
I think it is the 18th.
Joe Cronin will not sleep. I mean, and I feel for him because
26th. Also, 26th and 27th.
No goodness.
Which I will tell you right now, I've talked to multiple GMs and they all hate the idea of a 2-day. It's dumb.
Nobody's gonna care about the second day of the NBA.
It was described to me as fake hustle.
And it really is. It'll be a one-day draft in 2025.
Yeah.
But Joe Cronin is in a spot where, I mean, he's got to make moves to make this roster exponentially better heading into next year, and maybe not positioning themselves in a place to win, like and be a contending team next year.
They have to make more sense.
But you have got to show that this team is taking a dramatic step forward to competing for the playoffs in a playoff spot.
I don't think that necessarily need to take a step forward in wins. They have to take a step forward in making sense.
I wholeheartedly disagree. They need to win more games next year.
Well, then you're not getting a chance at Cooper Flag.
Well, and that's going to be a really, because this is the thing that would be what, year 5.
It's year 2.
But
if you have Damian Lillard on your team, you are not rebuilding. I don't care what anybody says. If you have a first ballot Hall of Famer in their front,
like they shut everybody down 2 years in a row but hold on, for draft picks though, we saw what happened at the end of the years. They weren't competing to win games. Like and that's the reality. Like that is where they were, and I understand where you're coming from with it. They weren't rebuilding.
No.
They were not rebuilding. But what and I'm talking this solely from a fan base standpoint.
Sure.
In ownership and the front office, they may be on the same page in that regard, and I don't disagree with you in that. This fan base is going to go absolutely.
They couldn't handle this year.
If they go down another road where you're not making a dramatic step forward, because that's not what any fan base wants to go through. And how long? We've already talked about this. If you're talking about the longest stretch of consecutive losing seasons in Blazers history, we're there. And like that is where I think the fan base, apathy is the worst thing that can happen to the fan base. And I think that from a fan base standpoint, that's where things really start turning, because people have still been showing up to games. Like
for all of the TV stuff and the organization, I will tell you full-heartedly, they are not going to let that happen going forward. The lack of access to the games. The attendance is only down 8%. So people are still in the building.
And I think that's where it turns. And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for everybody, the people in text like, well, I'm not showing up. Guess what? So everyone else is.
Well, and you bet, and that is the whole thing with it, taking a big step forward. Like you watch every single game.
Mm-hmm.
People that have been watching this team competes their butts off.
Yeah.
They are void of depth.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries have ravaged them.
And I think
and if you take a big step forward, you are competing for and I'm not saying like a top 4 seed. I'm saying that you're competing for that play-in, right?
Well, the other side of this is I think this year would have been drastically different, not in a performance standpoint, but a vibes, a feeling standpoint. If Scoot doesn't crater into the side of the mountain to start the season and Shaedon doesn't get hurt. If those two things don't happen, you have 2 very strong storylines that should carry you for the season. But Scoot, number 1, starting poorly and then getting hurt. Ant getting hurt, and then Shaedon getting hurt. On top of Rob getting hurt. It made what should have been even a bad season enjoyable.
Yeah.
Not enjoyable out of the gate on top of the TV stuff. So the first 6-8 weeks of the season were so detrimental out of the gate that it made the entire season feel crappy.
And this team wasn't going to win.
They weren't going to hit the over. Even fully healthy, they were not hitting the over.
But it went, and it took such a weird turn.
Right out of the gate.
That is why you've got to take I think for this fan base,
they need something to galvanize. That's the thing they need.
And that has to translate to wins and losses too.
But that's the thing is, I think in that galvanizing force, and I don't think it's going to be a guard because you look at this draft class, there's not that many guards. I threw that out there just to kind of throw the wrench in this, but I think they will take, in this, they have demonstrated this, taking the biggest swing in the draft. Look, Scoot was a swing, regardless of how you feel about him. He was the guy that has the most potential. You can talk about the Thompson twins. Neither one of them's ever going to be able to shoot ever. As bad as Scoot has been as a shooter, Amen and Desar are worse. They're high level role players. They never had the ceiling that Scoot has, which Scoot still has. It's not gone. There's an opportunity still there, and this summer will go a long way to figuring out which way that goes. But they took the swing before that, they took a swing on a guy in Shaedon Sharpe, like a guy who did not play college basketball, who burst onto the scene during COVID and EYBL.
And this is like the big issue, though. If you swing and you don't even connect, that is where we're not seeing it.
No,
I mean, and as good as we've seen the sparks from Shaedon Sharpe, he gets hurt, and that's not a fault of his own.
No, it happens.
Or the Blazers organization. But at the same time,
timing matters.
You're missing on that pitch,
Mm-hmm.
and that is where fan bases can only have so much. And there's a lot of really good feedback on the fan text line that I think the Vancouver Ford text line deserves its minute in the sun here.
We'll hit those coming up here next on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
Thanks to George
The Vancouver Ford text line, there is a lot of feelings, and most of them negative. I get it. I've seen the text line over the year where Danny can polish a turd like you couldn't believe when it comes to the Blazers. I'm not polishing anything.
Well, what we're talking about is the Blazers in the draft conundrum that they may be.
Yes, and the thing that I have always stood by is, number one, you can go back and go to the vault and find every podcast talking about leading up to the NBA draft last year before they took Scoot Henderson. I was vehemently behind giving Damian Lillard a shot. I know offers that were made, and they weren't good enough. They weren't. They weren't good enough to trade the number 3 overall pick. You could maybe talk yourself into it, an option that was on the table, but you still would have needed to do 2-3 more things to be viable. And they just didn't have anything left in the cupboard to use after that.
Yeah.
That number 3 pick had to solve almost all of their problems, and there was just no way to do it. That just is what it is. So they made the move and they took Scoot Henderson. He didn't go out there to replace Damian Lillard. They made a move that they should have made probably 2 years ago, which was to trade Damian Lillard. And whether Dame realized it then, or the Trailblazers realized it then, or somebody was just willing to do it, and I've talked to Dame about this, he knows that he probably should have left 2 years ago when Neil refused to trade CJ for the 5th time. But it pushed them down this road of where they ultimately got. And where they are right now is, I don't think there's a player on this team that is so foundational that you're like, yes, that's him. I think Anthony is a very good player. I think that it would be stupid of them to trade him away to make room for Scoot Henderson, because it has not been something that has been borne out to say, yes, he's the guy. I think Shaedon Sharpe has a ton of potential. I think Tu and Jabari and Delano, hell, even, and Chris and Ryan all profile as good to very good role players. But there's not something you can build your house on yet. And that's the thing, is you need the best player available. I think regardless of who it is, if you're talking about erasing the history of the Trailblazers out of your mind, but you can't do that. And that's the thing, is you look at the Vancouver Ford text line, and I've been a Blazer fan my whole life, been a season ticket holder for the past 10 years, but I've never been less excited about a lottery pick in any season than I have been watching Scoot play this year. What an absolute letdown. And we talked about this going into this season. I did not mince words. I said, Scoot Henderson is a very high ceiling, but he's going to be a 19-year-old quarterback, and boy, is he going to suck. I think I said verbatim, he's going to suck a lot. Because that's the reality. 19-year-old point guards aren't good.
But the development that we've seen has been 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I think, as you look over the course of the year, we've seen little spurts. Shooting is an issue, but anybody that's surprised by that just wasn't
paying
listening to his pre-draft evaluations. He was not a good and polished shooter. And I think also there's a lot of people trying to compare him to the guy that he is replacing in Damian Lillard, which is totally unfair for him in any regard, because Damian Lillard is a top 75 player in NBA history.
Not only that,
Reggie Miller said he's a top 10 player in NBA history today, which is a stretch.
I saw that. That was an interesting line.
That was a stretch
a
half,
but I appreciate Reggie with the Dame propaganda.
But there is this is the big issue, though, in that, look, they got a good haul for Damian Lillard and what they eventually turned it into. And you do have some building blocks, but stars win in the NBA. And if the Blazers cannot evaluate to develop one, or, if we're being quite honest, get the luck of the lottery, and that's really what it is the luck of the lottery, and be able to get one of those guys, that doesn't mean fans are going to be okay with it.
No.
Because they're fanatical for a reason. And I understand where all of this vitriol is coming from the Blazers fan base. In this offseason, if they're not making moves, everybody should be holding the Trailblazers organization accountable for not moving forward and doing right in what they said they want to do.
It's funny that it took this long. all those years of Neil Olshey shoveling crap, and it's okay, it's fine. It got to the breaking point now. It got to the breaking point because the thing that I wanted for so long in that era was the fan base to hold the Trailblazers' feet to the fire.
They stumbled ass backwards into Western Conference Finals.
Yep.
The owner died.
Yep.
COVID happened. Like there was all of these like I think the one time where everybody's like, what, when they were almost there was when they made, was it 2016 when the salary cap ballooned and they made all of those signings. People like, what the hell is this team doing right now? And then
in the same season, the Warriors signed Kevin Durant.
They exceeded expectations that year. And it was like, okay, so it's not as bad as we thought. We saw a dramatic step in Damian Lillard's play and development. And then what we ended up being in was all of those things just kind of falling into the Western Conference Finals. Paul Allen dying, COVID, all those things. And you're just going in a player good enough to keep you relevant, but not to win. And then people lost their S on Neil Olshey. And they did. And that's why Joe Cronin is the GM now. But at the same token, they're not going to, this fan base does not want to have the same thing happen again and be told, hey, development is happening. Or like we had this text, if they weren't rebuilding, what were they doing? It sure wasn't trying to win a title or even make the playoffs. Seems more and more like wasted 2 years when they were shutting guys down at the end of the year. I mean, like, truly.
I think that when we think the first year when Olshey is fired, you have to throw that entire Joe Cronin, Chauncey Billups, they didn't know that was going to happen.
And I've said this all along. He had to untangle a mess. I was okay with it. But this offseason, if they're not making those strides, that's when you should be upset. And I think that's what we're all talking about is what led up to this point is this team has got to they've got to field a team that feels like they're making
it's progressing. Yes.
Making strides in the right direction. And that is wins and losses. That is wins and losses because people don't want
that'll be to the detriment of their development.
But that is then at that point you're just selling us, hey, be patient. Be patient.
You're selling hope.
For how long?
Yeah. Until you find a transcendent player because you can't win in this league without a top 10 guy.
They need to.
It's that simple.
Yeah. And that's why I said luck of the lottery has a ton to do with it. But I'm not going to fault anybody if they're not making big swings, like you said, and actually connecting because we've seen swings with Scoot and it's missing. We saw the swings. And again, Shaedon is banged up. He's injured. He's hurt. But that swing is missing right now. You need to connect. You have got to connect. And if you don't, and people aren't seeing that that is happening, I don't fault anybody, and I'll be right there with them with being really upset about the direction of this team. That this fan base absolutely loves the Portland Trailblazers, and they don't want to see it go down this road any further. And I can't blame them.
Here's a line here: the fan base being content with the Dame CJ era is the real problem. That allowed Olshey to continue to pull the wool over PA's eyes. The fan base never ever demanded better. They were too happy making the playoffs. It's pathetic.
And that was the one thing that Paul Allen, I think we all became accustomed to Paul Allen being like, I'm not buying this crap.
Yep.
He's out.
But then he got sick.
Yeah. And that really, because we didn't have to as a fan base be like, fire the GM because Paul Allen was doing that on his own.
Well, and in 2016, the ultra amount of money they spent, that was the Evan Turner contract, right, that they handed out. So that at that point, Paul Allen, I don't know how healthy he was, but you wonder after the moves he's seen in the past. I mean, Neil must have just sold him a bag of goods on that move.
No, that's how Neil advanced.
No, absolutely. So what I'm saying is it must have been either the point where Paul Allen was too sick to actually see.
No, Neil Olshey is a very good salesman.
Okay,
that's.
Well, and this text says, had the report of the toxic workplace hadn't come out, Neil would still be in charge. Let's not act like the organization was proactive in firing Olshey.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And I also think that a lot of people felt comfortable coming forward because of his standing with the organization at that time. And they were then...
He didn't have a friend in the building.
...empowered to say what they were all feeling.
So it was coming one way or the other, whether or not it was when it happened or at the end of that year. It was going to happen. So,
and they found their cause.
Hey, here you go. Coming up next, it is opening day tomorrow. What does the MLB payroll tell us about your team and what they could do coming up here next on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. But first,
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, a couple of moves in the NFL today. The Denver Broncos signing wide receiver Josh Reynolds to a 2-year contract worth up to $14 million. And the Carolina Panthers have signed linebacker Jadeveon Clowney for 2 years and up to $24 million. In the association, the Portland Trailblazers back in action this afternoon, facing off against the Hawks in Atlanta. Atlanta, a 10.5-point favorite. Tip-off for that set for just a couple hours from now at 4:30 p.m. on Root Sports. Moving to baseball, lots of news coming out today regarding, one major free agent. Could probably say he was the last one available. Starting pitcher Jordan Montgomery signing a 1-year, $25 million contract with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He did pitch against them in the World Series last season with the Rangers. And the Los Angeles Dodgers handing out even more cash. They have signed catcher Will Smith to a 10-year, $140 million contract extension. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
If you can't find the humor in today's NBA, you're doing it wrong. Heat Check with Trista Crick on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
on air tomorrow afternoon down at X Golf Tualatin.
See, this is why you got to come down to X Golf Tualatin early. The NCAA Madness doesn't start until 4, but Big League Baseball, I think our first game of the day is at noon, right on the dot at noon o'clock. We got Angels-Orioles opening up the big league season.
So if you want to watch a really good team beat the crap of a really, really bad team, there you go.
Hey, I'm excited to see the Fighting Ron Washingtons again. I think he's actually going to take the Angels to a better season than people expect. Possibly better than my Mariners.
Well, I'm sorry for you.
Yeah, it's going to suck, but, I digress.
I think more people are interested in seeing the Adley Rutschman show.
Yeah, if you come down to the Tualatin X Golf, you'll be just miles away from the Adley Rutschman home in Sherwood.
Yeah, I saw that the Orioles are they assigned Jackson Holliday down to the minors in a boo move.
They don't want to start the
they don't want to
clock.
start the clock.
So,
no, it's smart on their part,
it's
but it's
smart
still
business, but
robbing us all baseball fans of what we want to see, which is the young sparky Orioles just go and blast dangers.
Yeah, because for those that don't know, Matt Holliday's son, Jackson Holliday, is the top prospect in baseball, and by the All-Star break will be up with the Orioles and probably never back down again.
And if he hits and still wins Rookie of the Year, guess what? The service clock starts anyway. He will get credited with a full year of service time. So yeah, Baltimore can fool around with this all they want. Jackson Holliday, he will end up probably having a full year of service time.
It's going to be interesting to see where that lies. Speaking of the Baltimore Orioles, they are at the center of an article that was published on ESPN by Jeff Passan, diving into the line you can draw between spending and winning. And this is a discussion that we had talking about the Giants over the last decade. You can draw a direct line between spending and winning, almost a straight line, through and through in Major League Baseball, with few exceptions. The exceptions being the Mets because they're cursed. The Mets currently have the top payroll in baseball, and it's an obscene number. It's $340 million. $340 million.
It's very expensive.
And according to their stats and research, they have a 24% chance to reach the postseason. But the interesting thing about this is if you take a look at Baltimore, they are kind of the safe spot study. Actually, there's two teams, the Baltimore Orioles and the Tampa Bay Rays. Okay, keep in mind I just said $340 million for the top payroll in baseball. The Baltimore Orioles are heading into this season with the 29th ranked payroll at $114 million. And they are by far a team that is a payroll to winning ratio, the most skewed.
And this is what happens when you take the shortcut through hell. Like this is I think it's Sig Madrigal is the guy who runs the Baltimore Orioles. He came from Houston, and he is the formulator of the shortcut through hell that Houston made with Jeff Luna. Tear it all down, draft, just stock your farm system.
Land number one overall picks.
And knock it out of the park with those. I mean, they
don't
Adley. Miss. Well, they haven't missed
in a while.
Years, and not just number one picks, but
picks
their second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth rounders, guys that they're finding are dudes. Their evaluation process is through the roof
Whether
right
it's
now.
Gunnar or Hierstead or Jackson, I mean,
but
Solo, it's
you
a lot.
Tear it down until it's winning time. And for as much hope that the Orioles have that this year they can turn a corner, the process that they run with is you don't start paying until it's known. And if you remember, the Houston Astros went and traded for Justin Verlander right before the All-Star break. And they said, we are going
It's winning time.
It is winning time right now. This year, it feels like this is that year and if you look, the Astros have not turned back. Like they're paying guys left and right. They let some guys go, Carlos Correa with the ankle injury, but they drafted his replacement, and they felt comfortable enough with saying, all right, now's not the time.
And the Astros, for those wondering, have the sixth highest payroll in baseball at basically $260 million.
And this is where you all of a sudden will, once you start getting those guys in, you start paying those vets to fill out a World Series contending roster. This new owner that was just approved today for the Baltimore Orioles, he better be ready to win, and he better be ready to open up his pocketbook, because this only works with what Baltimore's doing if you are very aggressive at the trade deadline, you're willing to part with some of those draft picks that you have developed, and you let some of them go, but to push you over the top for a World Series
You keep
run.
your core of your triplets. You keep Adley, you keep
got
Jackson,
to be able to do it.
and then you kind of figure it out from there. What does this mean for Jordan Schultz and his Mariners? The Mariners have the 18th highest payroll at 159.1. You should be throwing stuff at ownership.
You think? I mean, I've been pissed the entire offseason, but the point where you can get that young talent in this little like vortex that they are now with Julio, with Cal Raleigh, and Julio still, even with that like $500+ million extension, he's still making livable money for the Mariners. Cal's on the minimum. You got young guys, like all your starting pitchers are still making basically $750,000 to $1 million. Yeah, you're right. I'm pissed that they didn't go spend that extra $25-30 million to go get a guy like Matt Chapman or to go get a guy like Cody Bellinger to add that, that one piece that they have been short on. And even this year, they added a DH, but still they did like subtraction by addition essentially, and now have a hole again at third base. So yeah, I'm pretty pissed.
And they have maybe the best pitching staff in baseball.
Absolutely. 1 through 5, hands down.
It's incredible.
I'd say 1 through 7, possibly.
Yeah.
Like Emerson Hancock, Brian Wu, you've got kids down into your AAA team that
who are
could
fantastic,
pitch today.
who could come up and pitch as a starter. That is all to say that you've got that pitching staff. You've got Julio. You've got Ty France. You've got guys.
You
and
need
yet,
consistency out of France this year.
But
You're right, that's it.
you have got dudes and you slashed payroll.
Yep.
That's the kind of thing where you're looking at baseball. Are they the Oakland A's? No. And if you're wondering, the Oakland A's have quite literally half the payroll of the Mariners. They are dead last by such a significant margin. It's insane. The A's payroll is $80 million.
The one team I can't figure out is the Tampa Bay Rays, though.
Which they're an interesting case, much like the Orioles, where they have a farm system. They're like the Orioles right now, but historically they're like a cheaper version of the Cardinals. The Cardinals have been good for 25 years because their farm system has been one of the best for a quarter century. And they don't overpay guys. The thing that the Rays don't do is go pay to get the other guy. They don't trade for the Arenado. They don't trade for the Goldschmidt. They don't trade for the Holiday. They don't go get that other guy.
They have $119 million on their payroll this year.
Which is insane because over the last 5 years, they have the fourth most wins in baseball.
Crazy.
They're consistently very good. But so you have these outliers on these teams that exist that are quote unquote cheap. But if you look at the direct lines of everything else, there is no sport payroll out there. There is a more direct correlation than baseball and spending money. So if you're a fan of a franchise who's not spending money, unless you're the Orioles, the Rays, start looking towards next year.
Yeah.
Unless somebody breaks the cycle, that's just the way it's going to go.
Well, in the best odds to win the World Series, Dodgers, Braves, Astros, all right now, they are
top 6 payrolls.
3 of the top 6 payrolls in baseball.
And the Mets,
works.
The Mets screw that up because, well, they're the Mets.
Well, maybe the Yankees too, if they can't stay healthy.
Again, New York is going to New
Something's
York.
in the water, baby.
Yeah, it's just that's the nature of that beast. The surprising one here in this list is the Toronto Blue Jays.
No, they
spent more money than anyone.
Yeah, but they had a bunch of young talent.
Vladdy Jr., Bichette. I mean, you go down the list.
Basically,
all
the guys in the '90s that were really good. Their kids now
Yeah.
play for the
Blue Jays.
Yeah. And they want to win. Like, we don't give Toronto enough credit stateside with how much they love their Blue Jays up north.
It's the Raptors and the Jays,
dude. And
for sports that North American.
If you've ever been to a Mariners game when the Blue Jays are in town,
Vancouver rolls
it is
down.
Just
It's
circling.
It's Canada's
with
team.
Blue Jays fans. Wasn't it last year that they put Blue Jays jerseys in the Mariners team store?
Yes,
Jordan.
That is what that happened.
Yeah, post All-Star break,
Yep.
it looked like they were just trying to get rid of the extra Blue Jays crap that they had. No, but yeah.
No, the Raptors came to the Blazers game, and the Raptors fans were 50-50 with the Blazers. Like, you have an entire nation rooting for a team.
Yeah,
That's
it took JP and Cal Raleigh to say, hey, stop doing this for the Mariners to pull all that crap.
I mean, I get it. Get it.
Yeah, this is a good point on the Vancouver text line. Wander Franco really set the Rays back.
Yeah. he was really good, but the other stuff, super gross, and hope terrible things happen to him.
Wow.
They still got to pay him, too.
Yeah. That's the
no. They'll find their way out of that one. They'll find their way out of that one.
And also the Vancouver Ford text line shouting out Schultze and 54%.
54.
Not 54.
So there you go. All right, coming up next, we will get ready to hand you off to Isaac and Sue. Can we run Danny and Dusty, Tinny the Fan?
Hello.
So I can be disappointed early and often. That's the great thing about baseball season, is it allows you to be disappointed 150 plus times. It's a lot of opportunity for...
You have the ability to dip in and dip out of baseball season.
It's wonderful.
At your leisure.
Well, watching my 54 percenters, I think I'm going to be disappointed quite a bit.
Yeah. God, 54 percenters sounds like a hate group.
It is. They're called Mariners fans. They hate themselves and the Mariners.
Yeah, that's a good one. But truth.
It is. We've been through this. Been 20 plus years now. You should get a patch for that Mariners
to go on your leather jacket.
Team owner finally addressed it without actually addressing the whole controversy in the offseason. He's like, I want to win. Like, you're not spending the money to. Full stop.
Yeah, doesn't look like it, bud. All right, hey, we're going to be on the road tomorrow. X-Golf Tualatin, Fan Madness Part 2. Let's go. Party on with us. We'll be there tomorrow noon until 7 p.m. Thanks to our friends George McCoy at Warren Allen Attorneys at Law and Coors Light. Up next, 4 hours of power from their mouths to your ears is Primetime with Isaac and Suk. Have a great Wednesday, everybody.
Bye.